This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. But you just lie there with your arms and legs spread, and suddenly my body just became like as if something pressed me down, as if something vacuumed me, and I didn't wake up until 45 minutes later. And that was the moment when I experienced the most unique feeling in the world. I'm a woman who has 2 children, and they say giving birth is one of the most unique things a person can experience, but this was many times stronger. Write this down. We need to figure out what this is. I don't know what we're supposed to find. But there's no time. This just has to happen. More and more people need to experience this. For me, there's no one who can continue living their life the old way after experiencing something like this. These are all those journeys through consciousness that we've made, which are absolutely normal and accessible to every person. Absolutely anyone can do it.
Many people would ask how.
In the second such session with her guidance, I first met my spirit, my soul.
How did you even feel that thing?
We took a certain step. Some people started to feel unwell. They couldn't go any further. Some people went back. Others started to climb, then came back down, because the very top of this mountain is energetically protected. They were teaching me how to work with this particular energy, but besides that, they were showing me a lot from their world. And I'm talking about Atlantis, about the crystal buildings, about people who levitate, about people who move on these energy-like surfboards above the surface. It was as if my whole body broke down into atoms, into cells, into components of all this energy, and then it all came back together again.
My first book, Touching Reality, is officially out now. You can get it with cash on delivery, and I also ship abroad. I'm very excited. 320 pages of experiences, wisdom, realizations, memories, an invitation to remember once again who we are, what we are capable of, and what we keep programming ourselves to believe we've forgotten when in fact, deep down, we haven't. We are so much more than what we appear to be. And that's exactly what's encoded in this book. There are no chosen ones when you choose, when you know what your choice is capable of. Allow yourself to experience yet another perspective. Link below the scripture. Today's guest is a wonderful lady who was born in 1987 and, even as a child, felt the presence of another mind within herself. From a young age, she knew that reality is not singular, that many layers live within us, and that we are here for a reason, much more than just standing, eating, drinking, swearing, complaining, and jumping from one dependency to another until one day our life simply ends. It is with great pleasure that I say welcome to Veronika Kara-Mitrova. Thank you for being on Reality Explorers. Your story is unique. I'm very happy about this meeting. I'm grateful to Valia for making the connection, and of course to you for accepting and being here with us. We have many interesting things to talk about: what you can do, about what you do, about Atlantis, about channeling, about life and beyond. Welcome.
I'm very happy to be here with you and to do this for the people who need to hear it.
Right now, life is very dynamic. A lot of fast events are happening constantly, and people are confused by this flow of information. What are you mainly doing right now? How do you work with people?
Well, I mostly work with people online since I live in England. I have small groups where I share information. We organize events, and I also organize live events, retreats here in Bulgaria for people, and that's my way of communicating online before me.
How did all this start for you? How did you get into it? Pazarjik, a city here near Plovdiv, which is lively, let's call it that. How did you become who you are now? Open up. How did you even allow this whole reality? How does a person do that at this age?
Well, for me, things happened a bit differently, a little different from what I've heard. I haven't experienced anything that was some big cataclysm that started my awakening, even though there was such a moment. But ever since I was little, I could see, hear, and sense things that I couldn't explain. Because the things I saw didn't look like anything I had ever seen, nothing like what I see in the world around me. And so I've spent quite a few evenings just observing certain events. Of course, back then, in the distant 1990s, people didn't talk about these things at all, as if it was something that could possibly exist. There was simply no way for such a thing to exist. And all the people who talked about things they saw or heard, things that other people couldn't see or hear, it was something that literally got you labeled. You were strange, you needed some kind of intervention. And that's how I slowly started to close myself off. Because I had some really tough moments in my childhood when my parents didn't know what to do with me. And what are you doing? I was always startled and couldn't sleep at night because my mind was constantly active. Movements. I haven't always seen specific images, or at least that's what I remember, but I just saw this movement. I heard things that no one else could see, and no one else saw what I was seeing. And I remember that I was very scared at night. I didn't want to sleep alone at all. And so my parents, they really tried to get me to sleep separately because I was already starting to get older, like 5, 6, 7 years old. But I just couldn't because I was scared. I was scared because I was constantly being told that this wasn't normal. Let's go here. Now someone will cast a spell for you. Let's go there. Now they'll pour lead for you. Come on, right? And everywhere we went, everywhere they took me, everyone reacted like it was something really scary, and I believed it was scary. Even though I couldn't sleep at night, just because I was curious, I could hear, I could sense conversations. I've taken part in journeys and adventures that, as a child, you don't know if they're real or not. But they told me they were. You have such a wild imagination, and maybe one day you'll become a writer, or things like that. And I would immediately think, yeah, it's not real. And then came the time when they were constantly taking me somewhere for someone to cast a spell on me, to do something for me. I decided that this thing was scary, that it wasn't normal, and that it had to stop. And little by little, I started to close myself off from that world, maybe consciously, maybe not.
Do you remember any specific experience from back then that stayed with you? Something you would describe as unreal?
Yes, I had many experiences I won't forget. Once, in my childhood room, my parents were asleep. I was in my room and I was distracted by some noise, a noise that wasn't normal, more like a ringing sound, something completely different. And I see how, since we didn't have any colorful wallpaper, I see how this wallpaper is moving. It started to create some images. I started to hear some conversations that I didn't quite understand. I was aware of them, but I didn't understand them. And then I won't forget, I went to my parents and they told me, oh, you don't see anything. You're just dreaming again. You're imagining things. I have many memories from my village house, my grandmother and grandfather. My grandfather had tied a swing to the grapevine, and I won't forget that swing was facing the mountain. I used to spend hours and hours on that swing. I didn't even realize how much time I spent there. But there I traveled, Now I get what was happening to me then.
What was happening to you?
Well, I was simply traveling to other dimensions. I was just transporting myself to places that were more interesting to me, because my life wasn't always very interesting, especially as a child. I remember that back then I traveled a lot. And now, with the information we have today, I realized that I was traveling to intergalactic stations, different ships, different other planets with other beings. Because I saw grass in blue, trees in golden, and some animals that don't exist on our planet. And I felt very nice. I was very interested. It was really wonderful for me because then I truly felt calm. Back then, there wasn't this heaviness of our earth because quite often I feel that it's heavy here, really heavy. But there it was different. It was beautiful. It was colorful. It was love.
Last night I had a dream in which someone or something was showing me how the small ships work. I mean the really small ones. We're talking about something just big enough for us to fit in, like an Asti capsule. And it was on the ground. It was in a situation like that, like an amusement park, and this mini saucer was circling around the park and its role was to observe it. It was something that had to be seen, but at the same time it was invisible, and I'll never forget how I was inside. And it was shown to me from the inside. You see everything in 360 degrees, open, spacious, very wide. And the moment we touch the earth, I feel it physically. It's like that feeling when a plane, for example, descends or takes off, exactly the same. You feel the gravity. And because this thing comes from inside, from her, you immediately feel these very strong vibrations below, like strings going down toward the earth. And actually, I felt that pull, and I was literally in training, in a presentation, like a test drive. How this thing works, to experience it, and I woke up with this thing, I was there, I saw it. How do we explain the fact that we don't need to be physically somewhere to experience other worlds?
That's something I always say, that a person should allow themselves to experience. Because until we allow ourselves to experience it, and until we start to believe that what happens in our minds can be real, because it happens to me very often, especially since I've gone through quite intensive energy training for energy workouts, therapists. We really experienced a lot of things there. And when you decide to just see a place, because it has happened to me many times, that's how I've traveled to New York. That's how I've gone to Japan. That's how I've gone to Australia. All the places I want to go, but physically at this moment, I can't. We can actually do this. And it's not just with our planet. We can really move our consciousness to places we want to go, or to places where we will receive some information, or to places where we will learn something useful, something we can take and apply. These are all those journeys through consciousness that we make, which are absolutely normal and accessible to every person. Absolutely anyone can do it.
Many people would ask how.
Well, how? With practice, with meditation, and by not stopping after the first, second, or third not so successful attempt, because there is something very interesting in our minds. When we experience something, and if we can't immediately find a logical explanation or someone else who has done it, we tell ourselves, apparently maybe I dreamed it, maybe I'm imagining things. But let's not forget that imagination is much smaller than we tend to exaggerate and give it such power. This is literally a journey that is truly possible for anyone, simply with regular meditations. It doesn't even have to be daily meditations. When you tell someone to meditate daily, they think, how will I find time each day for an hour and so on? It's like people say, appetite comes with eating. You start doing something, you feel a certain moment, and then you say, oh, wait, let me try again tomorrow. Let me do it again. For example, instead of 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
To see what will happen, what will come out.
Because I won't forget. In the beginning, when I started meditating, it was really strange for me. Like, how am I supposed to just sit here and listen to these things? Okay, I'll listen, no problem. And that was 15 minutes. It was very hard for me to focus my attention, just to turn off my mind, to turn off my thoughts. Because I'm one of those logical minds that always looks for an explanation, a justification for everything. There has to be some kind of proof for it. But when I started meditating more often and more consciously, I saw how this logic of mine started to quiet down a bit and began to reveal itself. The possibility, just really having possibilities, until I reached a point where now I can meditate for an hour and a half, depending on what I'm experiencing.
Take me a little further back. When you were a child and all of this sounded strange to you and was suppressed and you disappeared into those worlds, when did you find your way back? Was that the energy transformation you went through, and was it an activation? The key, Grandmaster of Atlantean Energy, and that sounds very intriguing, or was that at a later stage?
The title of Grandmaster of Atlantean Energies was acquired as a result of very, very serious training. But over the years, I kept closing off. I started surrounding myself with what should be, what shouldn't be, what is allowed, what isn't allowed. And that's how it was. I built up layers and layers and layers on myself, which manifested in the weight I had reached. I had reached quite a large size simply because I was piling up all these things. But for me, the moment was, I think it was in 2021, I had given birth to my second son, my little son, and I really didn't feel happy. With my partner at the time, the father of my children, we had our own home. We were working, great jobs, everything was fine. We even had a puppy and the kids, everything. I just had it all. I was studying for my higher education in England. I enrolled to study business management because that's what you have to do. You have to have some kind of profession, a diploma. Did you finish it? No, I didn't finish it because that's what you have to do. Yes, I finished it. I studied for 2.5 years, and I just had 1.5 years left. But I said, no, this is not for me. And so my partner, I don't know what his reasons were. I'll never forget. He comes to me and says, come on, let's lie down now and do an energy session. And I'm like, what? Do an energy session?
Were you into these things then?
Apparently, he was interested in them, but we hadn't discussed it. Actually, I was into the 3D world, into the matrix, into things you can touch and see, everything that's proven and created. And he tells me, come on, let's do it. Lie down so we can do it. An energy session. And I say, what energy session? Is someone coming to our house? I still don't know what an energy session is. Is someone coming to our house? Will we do it online or connect in some other way? He says, no, at a certain time, the energy session starts and we have to be lying down and ready for it. I say, man, the dishes, the kids, the dog, this online, all these things, wait. And he says, no, please, let's not do anything. And I say, okay, fine, let's do it. I felt that maybe it was something interesting, or at least I wanted to make him happy. And we lay down to do this energy session. We have certain words there that you use to enter a specific energy session. We said the words and lay down. And I will never forget the moment when I was saying my words. And we said to ourselves, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. You're just lying there with your arms and legs spread out. And suddenly my body just felt like something pressed me down, like something vacuumed me. And I woke up. I only woke up after 45 minutes. I'm saying this because that's how I understood it then. And the session was only 20 minutes. There was a moment when I heard him get up. The session was interrupted. He got up and left. I just couldn't. And then at that moment, I naturally thought, what are we going to do now? Are we just going to lie here for 20 minutes? The moment the session started, I felt an incredibly strong energy in my body, but it was an energy I had never experienced before. Beautiful energy, wonderful energy, energy that filled my eyes with tears, energy that I can still feel even now, energy that made my whole body tremble with excitement. I saw myself in a huge cave that was perfectly round, and the walls were like amethyst, purple and shimmering. And in the middle of this cave, there was a huge stream of energy moving, shimmering, white, purple, such very interesting colors. And I remember how I was moving and just touching the walls with my hand, and I could feel them. I was touching the stone. It was smooth, it was wet, it was cold. And at one point, my attention was drawn to this energy flow that was moving there in the middle of this cave. And I decided to get closer. And the moment I touched it, it just pulled me up in that same tunnel I was moving through. I don't know how long I was moving, but I remember my body was moving, my energy was moving so fast, like when a rocket is launched and the unnecessary parts start to fall off. That's how I felt, like something was falling off me, like everything unnecessary was just pouring off me like sand. And I was moving through this energy tunnel. I didn't know what was happening. The whole time I was thinking that maybe I was sleeping. And then came the moment when, as I was moving at a furious speed, I suddenly just stopped and I was in open space. There was nothing there. There were stars in the distance and in the middle of this open space. It was something that I even drew for the lady who was doing the energy session to show her what I had seen, what it was. Like a huge energy tornado, which was so powerful, so attractive, so captivating. And I could see certain lights. I didn't see people or anything like that. I just knew that it was someone. Like a light that was going close to the source, but it was also bringing a smaller light along with it. And I thought, wow, how cool is that, right? This big light is leading, something towards that thing. I didn't know what that was, what that source was, but later I realized, that it was probably the source, the actual source itself. But at one point, the more of those big lights passed by me, I looked at myself and saw that I was also one of those lights. I was exactly the same size as the other lights that were leading the smaller lights. And the moment I realized my state, I felt very drawn, drawn toward the source. And I started moving there consciously, or maybe not consciously. I just started moving there. And the moment I merged with it, because it's not just that you go and touch it, it connects with you. It's very interesting. It's like it lets you
It depends on how you see it.
Like a little cable, like electricity, like lightning, how electricity works. It just connects with you. You can't go to him because the energy is very powerful and he just sent out a little cable like that. And then that was the moment when I felt the most unique feeling in the world. I am a woman who has 2 children. They say that giving birth is one of the most unique things a person can experience, but this was many times stronger, many times more beautiful. It was long, as if my whole body shattered because I wasn't even a body there. I was just a figure of light. All of that broke apart into atoms, into cells, into the building blocks of all that energy. And then it all came back together again. And while this was happening, information was flowing through me, telling me that what I was observing, those bigger lights leading the smaller ones, that was also my task. And it was as if, here I am connecting, you are already starting to do this. And there were questions in my mind. There were many questions because I didn't know. I never imagined such things existed. I hadn't even seen them in movies. Even I knew that this was something I had to do. And I saw how these little lights were leading more and more. And the moment when they would lead the little lights to the source, he connects with them and they start to become bigger. And I said to myself, wow, so this is the task here. We have to lead the smaller lights so they can grow, so they can unfold.
When she woke up, what was the first thing she realized? And the next day, what changed after that session?
The first thing I realized was that this wasn't made up at all. It was so real. I won't forget how I went downstairs. I was shaking all over. I don't remember how I spoke or what I said to my partner, but I was just so overwhelmed. He looked at me with such eyes, mouth open, and told me, you have to write this down. By the way, I never did write that story down. It just lives inside me.
Now you're telling it for the first time?
Yes, I'm telling it for the first time. And he said, you have to write this down. We need to figure out what this is. I said, I don't know what we're supposed to figure out. But there's no time. There's no time. This just has to happen. More and more people need to experience this. I mean, for me, there's no one who could continue living their life the old way after experiencing something like this. And that's when I said, this is my mission. People need to experience what this feeling is, to connect with the source, to experience themselves, to experience their own wholeness. Exactly because there is no feeling that can describe it, nothing to compare it to. There isn't even a feeling.
Thank you very much for sharing this, and thank you for the opportunity. It's just very nice to hear someone who has experienced it in a completely different way. And we can make this happen right now. That's really wonderful. And actually, how did it continue after that? What year did it happen?
I think it was in 2021.
2021, by then you would already have 2 children.
Yes, by then I already had 2 children. Or was it 2020, somewhere around there, around COVID? Yes, around COVID.
That time, a lot subjective thinking about it. That day, I saw a post. A guy, again like that, had written, I don't know about you, but I'm convinced that I'm in another reality. Because COVID was 6 years ago, but you feel like it was just 2 years ago. But it was 6 years ago. Can you imagine?
Yes. Really, really. That time passed so quickly, and recently I found some of the masks and I thought, wow, how long ago was that? Why was I doing this here, still in my house? And really, a lot.
Tell me about Atlantis. Atlantis,
Atlantis.
this is the great Atlantis.
This is a world that is so beautiful, filled with love, with understanding, with growth, with encouragement for the people. To be the versions of themselves that make things happen, that fulfill, that care for the good. I reached this kind of energy thanks to my first teacher, because after I experienced this session, I contacted this woman and said, I don't know what I just went through, but I experienced this and that. I need to find out why. I have the feeling that there is no time, that something needs to be done, that something needs to be acted on. And then she started working with me. She was my first teacher, whom I love deeply and often think about. And she started little by little to teach me, to introduce me. We began with energy healing like Reiki. Even after my first initiation, she said, these energies are not for you. We need to follow a different path with you.
What was that other path?
Because the Atlantean energies are much higher in frequency and vibration than Reiki, than the common Reiki. She said, no, we won't deal with that at all. Come on, there are new energies here now. Let's start with them. And to test me, she then sent me a little bit of energy. And the moment, in just a few seconds, I see how a sun rises inside me. A sun rises before my eyes. And I say, I'm in Egypt. And she tells me, okay, that's yours. Let's continue this way. She is extremely wise with an incredible amount of experience. And that's how we started. Little by little, we began with the energies of Isilda, Bastet, Sekhmet. Thoth, actually all of them with the progression, there's a bit of hierarchy and advancement there, and then a really strong next initiation. I was experiencing a little movie and I felt so merged with this world that I kept on living in this world, even a few days after we've completed a certain training or after we've read something.
What do you get from it the most? Images, did you see them? Knowledge, practical things? What do you understand? What do you understand?
The practical things were shown to me the most because they were literally teaching me how to work with that energy. But besides that, they showed me a lot from their world. And here I'm not talking about Egypt in the form that we know and see it. I'm talking about Atlantis, about the crystal buildings, about people who levitate, about people who move on these kinds of energy surfboards above the surface as if you're surfing in the air. About the special halls where mass healings are performed, mass attunements, changes in vibration, about the Sphinx. We had a very interesting experience where underneath the Sphinx itself, you showed us what there is, like a living spring with water that gushes out, and this water is healing. Calling it healing is actually an understatement for this water. They showed us their way of life, how they took care of things. Well, what I saw was very close to a human form, but it's not something you could say you could actually touch. It was more like a mixture between a physical manifestation and an energy manifestation, because they were like crystalline, glowing crystalline, but with a human shape and a little different, a bit elongated, a bit taller, with longer arms. And they showed us a lot and taught us about how to see the whole picture. Because that's at the center of everything, how to look out for the good of everyone, not just for yourself. Because on my journey, what they showed me was literally when a certain person who was one of the main ones, a main person decided to use the power of the Atlantis crystal for their own benefit, and that led to the destruction of Atlantis. And that was very crucial for me because I went back to the idea that yes, everything we do it for the people. And if we start to shift this perspective more towards, okay, I'm experiencing something, something is happening to me, how can this be useful for people? And this is something that I experienced, and for my philosophy, because it's special to me. We are not given a challenge, we are not given a difficulty, we are not given a situation that is meant just for us. We can always teach someone something from what we have experienced.
What would you say to people who say that when they hear something like this? People out there, you think they mean well, but they are bad. People are envious, constantly gossiping, jealous, pointing fingers, judging. Why should I do it for everyone? When they are like that anyway, they can't change.
Because someone has to kick the cup and let the water spill. Someone just has to do it. You know, I lived with that feeling for many years because when we live in the energy world, when we deal with energy healing, our teachers teach us that we constantly have to protect ourselves, to put up a bunch of protections because something bad is lurking there. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped dealing only with that, because for me it is when we protect ourselves, when we are constantly defending ourselves, when we are always thinking that something bad will happen, that someone will attack us, that someone will harm us, we actually attract that. And I tell myself, okay, yes, I do 20 protections, the strongest protections I know, the strongest protections I've been taught. And I still suffer. I still have headaches. Bad things still happen to me. Unpleasant events still occur. Why is that? At one point, I said, that's enough. I am light. It's important for me to know that I am love. I don't wish harm on anyone. The person across from me can think whatever they want, but that doesn't affect me. And that's when I saw how we create our own reality, how we literally choose the reality we want to live in from that moment on. I don't use any powerful protections like that. I have my own rituals that help me with my overall energy state. But I said, no, if the person in front of me is me, then what am I protecting myself from? Am I actually protecting myself from myself? I'm protecting myself from that, from seeing my own. Absolutely, my own reflection, my manifestation, something that I deny. Because realistically, the things that annoy us in other people are the things we don't accept in ourselves, the things that are in our shadow. I mean, these are well-known things. And let's allow ourselves to be the change. I'm coming back to the questions here. Let's allow ourselves to be the change. What will happen if we always have this feeling? What will happen? If, for example, someone does something to me, I would say to them, I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you. Because even the negative things that happen to us lead us to such cool things and experiences afterwards.
You know what I think? People become so creative in trying to find a hack for reality that we don't want to believe. That true gratitude, true forgiveness towards yourself, to admit to yourself that you are enough, that you did what you could at that moment, that you are who you are, and that's completely okay, that you have the strength right now, that you can respond beautifully and calmly. Somehow it's like it's nice, but if that's how it is, then get up and give me something else. What exactly are we looking for, and how far are we willing to go to find it?
Subscribe. You know, I see it all the time in people as a result of the times we've lived through, the social understandings we've lived by. We really love to compare ourselves. We really love to look for what's wrong with us. Ever since we were little, we've been taught to notice what's not right. The red pen in the notebook, the failing grades in the report cards. And that's something that students I deal with every day with people, that we limit ourselves so much by what is expected of us that even as students, we don't allow ourselves to show anything different. We try to meet everyone else's expectations, but not our own. And there comes a moment when the soul starts to rebel, it starts to resist, it starts to tell you enough already, enough already. It doesn't matter what you went through in your childhood. It doesn't matter what happened to you at school. None of those things matter. You are not what happened to you. You are not what you experienced with certain people. Yes, you are not what they tell you. Because I myself went through this and I lived this way for many years. And when we allow ourselves to just be explorers, to simply be explorers, to say, okay, this person, for example, reacts to me in this way, to explore what is behind it. What is this? Why does he react like that? What about me, for example? In me, why do I see it? His reaction, why do I see it in my reality?
We always have two choices. You can always say, oh yes, nothing depends on me, I have nothing to do with it, I don't know. Or you can say, why does it appear exactly in my field? Somewhere something in me is vibrating to this. Otherwise I wouldn't be having this conversation at all. As a result, I either pretend and put up another defense, or I rush in and say, let's see what you've got.
Yes, let's explore ourselves.
Let's explore what will happen, why. And usually there are some big lessons hidden there. Always.
Always.
Sometimes someone else next to us, someone very close, not exactly for us as a specific experience, but more so for someone else to see how you would do it.
Yes, but even in that, we are still learning. Even if we do it for someone else, we are still learning. And surely all the people who have gone through or are walking some path, if they think about it, it's exactly those moments that were the moments of decision. Because we always have a choice. The thing is, we realize we have choices when we've reached a certain point in this. Otherwise, before that, we just go along and say, yes, I have no choice. Yes, that's my fate. Yes, that's my family. Yes, that's how I grew up. Yes, that's how I'm limited. That's how it is. Until we reach a moment when we can say, okay, this is my family. This is my environment. This is my past. But this is not who I am now. And until we reach that very moment of choice, at least for me, from what I've seen, from what I've experienced, there really are quite a few things we need to let go of, like burdens, like limitations, like rules we've imposed on ourselves. But we say society.
How do we realize this thing? Which you also mentioned that every person has enormous potential, but is programmed to forget it. How do we realize that we have given into this ourselves? The whole thing around us collectively programs us because we have allowed ourselves to be programmed. That is, we have programmed ourselves, not that they are programming us, they are crushing us, they are controlling us.
It starts from our childhood because we know that in the first 7 years, the child depends entirely on the family environment, and he is ready to do anything to survive in that environment. And he says to himself, okay, just like it was in my case, okay, when I talk about these things, mom and dad get scared. They start taking me to different places, to do something with me. Maybe I should stop so they can be happy. And in this way, again, with our own choice, we start putting all these programs on ourselves. We still choose, but it's in order to survive. And recently I was listening to Tony Robbins, who was talking about exactly, about needs and mostly about values in life. And that if my value is to survive and your value is, for example, something different, we can't understand each other, and we'll always act according to that. What is valuable to me right now? And if for me it's in the first 7 years, if the only value is for me to survive, I will do everything to survive after that. Then if the only value, as I already said, is this, because I'm at a point where the only value for me is this, me, for me to be able to pass on and follow what I have defined for myself. At the moment, as a mission, for me, the other things are not so important and not so valuable in the sense of survival. Yes, it happens on its own. When you start climbing up the chain, it just happens by itself because your focus is already in a completely different place. But yes, we program ourselves, we choose on our own, for example, at school, what kind of company we want to keep. We tell ourselves, these are the cool kids and those are the nerds. Do I want to join the cool kids or the nerds? But again, it all comes from our choices.
I completely agree, and thank you very much for this confirmation today. What happened to you after that? How did you start seeing the world? How did you start working with people, those who showed up at the beginning? Were you worried about that? About deciding to give the right direction? How would you even handle it if someone asks you something and you can't answer? Being yourself is a strange thing. You chase it your whole life, and yet it keeps slipping away from you. That's exactly why we created our membership. To create a space where more and more people who in some way feel strange and out of place, until it becomes natural to gather more, to share our knowledge and experience in a common space. On our website INRA, BG, in our membership section inside, with books, with audio meditations, with guided meditations, webinars, online meetings with all of you every month on different topics, and above all, with great passion and enthusiasm to continue exploring reality and its endless layers. Join our membership.
Yes, when I entered the world of energy, everything was wonderful. I literally felt
Like I was flying.
Weightless. You just open your arms, the energy flows, and when you're in an energy session, you can actually see what you're doing. The thing is, when the session ends, the person opens their eyes and returns to their world, their day. They continue to live the same way, they keep making the same choices. They accept that they've received some kind of energy boost that helped them feel better. Like, okay, fine, here I took my pill or I took my daily dose, now I can go and live the same way as before. And that was something that
No.
you can, no, here you go, talk about it tomorrow then. Yes, and people just started coming back. A week goes by, 2 weeks, and the same problem again. Sometimes it's kidneys, sometimes it's a headache, sometimes it's the stomach, sometimes it's me. At one point, I just stood there and said to myself, God, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I can't spend my whole life waiting for the moment when someone will feel bad again, will need help again, or will need some kind of rescue again, and to rush to them.
And just looking for a pill?
Yes, and I say, I'm not a pill, I'll get exhausted like this. I was in my 30s back then, and I told myself, I'll get exhausted like this. I can't do it even if I want to. Physically, I can't do 20 energy sessions a day. It's unthinkable. And then I started to explore, to talk a bit more with people. They didn't just come to me for a 20-minute session. Well, I used to talk a little before that, and then I started in a different way, a different approach. Again, it was given to me in a dream because I didn't know why it was happening. Back then, I didn't read about the power of thought, about our bodies, about the nervous system, about our psyche. I didn't read it all. I had attributed such things to the energetic, the beautiful world where you wave a magic wand and create miracles. And then in a dream I will never forget. In that dream, I met one of my spiritual guides. We were climbing a hill, and at first I was walking alone, and somewhere halfway up I met him. And so we communicated non-verbally, because for me information usually comes as a thought form. And that's exactly what I told him, because at that time I also had a very intense case with a little child we were treating, but we couldn't help. In the end, I also asked him, okay, why is this happening? I'm giving my all. I'm really doing what you told me to do. I'm giving the light. I'm giving the energy. You told me to do it, and I'm doing it. And then he told me that not everything in our world, not everything is sacred only because of what you give energetically. That there is a need to work with the body, that there is a need to work with the emotions, that there is a need to work with the mind. I didn't really understand him then. He showed me the components, soul, body, and I said, okay, I don't know what that is, but I'll start exploring it. And I woke up then and even the very next day. By the way, I happened to come across a video by chance, of course, naturally, a video where you talk exactly about how our body is connected to our emotional state, how our state, and really this whole news. And I said, apparently that's what he wanted to tell me. And then I started reading more. I started reading more psychology books to see how all of these things are formed. I started with Psychosomatics, reading a lot, because that's what I was doing. I was healing people.
For people who are hearing it for the first time, what is Psychosomatics?
Psychosomatics, that's psyche and soma, how our psyche affects the soma, our body, and in psychosomatics. For every physical condition we have, there is a certain mental state that has triggered it. That's it. And since it was like that in my field, I said, okay, I'll start reading about what this is. What does it mean when there is a constant migraine? What is it when there is constant throat pain? When there is constant leg pain, in extension, whatever it may be? And I started to read and connect a lot of things. And from then on, when someone came to me with a certain symptom, because people come with symptoms, just like to a regular doctor, they come with symptoms, I already knew. Constant migraine, my head won't stop hurting.
What a constant migraine means.
Well, basically, that's the stress, those constant thoughts, those are the states of constant anxiety. These are the people who live in the future, who worry about the future, who are afraid for the future. And then in their heads, as I always say, it's like a bowl of spaghetti that can't calm down. And then they start having constant migraines. And it's all because we think we create 150 scenarios and not a single one of them might happen. But we always think of the worst. We always think anxiously. And then I started to look at the person not just as a symptom that needs to be treated, but at what is happening outside of here.
Let me make a side note. How do you explain to someone who has migraines or constant occasional headaches that the reason is because they think too much about the future? What is he expected to do in order to stop having this pain?
How do you connect the dots?
And third things are connected.
Well, that's exactly why I think the work of true healers and mentors is so important, because for me, a good healer should also be able to be a mentor, to be able to help the person in their daily life so that the given symptoms or situation do not repeat. Very often, I start with this. Come on, tell me, what are you worried about? What's happening? What are you thinking about so much? And they start to talk, to share, and so on. And in principle, I use a lot of psychological techniques here, of course, a lot of coaching naturally, because the person needs to open up in some way so you can help them, and a lot of coaching. Questions, a lot of them just human questions. Why are you so worried? And here, tell me who wants so many things from you and who has wanted so many things from you.
Who demanded
this, and why does the pattern persist? Who are you still trying to impress? Why did you always have to anticipate when you were little, for example, and now you still keep anticipating? Because, for example, when we lived in an unpredictable environment, we didn't know. For example, when we came home from school, would mom and dad be okay? Would they be angry? Would they be arguing? And we live in this constant stress. And even before we get home, we're already thinking, this is option 1, this is option 2, this is option 3. And we learn to live this way and continue to be stressed throughout our whole lives. That's where panic attacks come from. That's where all these conditions come from, which are now so common, and people are wondering where to start treating them.
And they look for an external answer, someone to give me the next pill, because that's easier. But times are coming when, on the one hand, it won't be easy, but on the other hand, things will become more and more open, and finally, it will be truly easy. I mean, things will flow like a river, without obstacles, and where there's a pebble, we will be the ones to pick it up and let the water just flow. As Bruce Lee says, be water, my friend. Yes, water enters the cup and becomes the cup. It doesn't claim that it's exactly in this cup at the moment, it uses that state. We had such a case and we often go back to it. Our friend was with us at the time. During a certain period while we were moving into a new place, for a month and a half, he was with us every day. We went through it together, we lived together. He had some other personal doubts and after that he left. After that, it happened that we never saw each other again. For us, it was a shock because it was the first time we learned the lesson that everything has its own place at the right moment. And be there, be present now, because this moment will never repeat itself. He needs you now, this is the experience now, and now you both need each other. And we always remind ourselves of that situation whenever we start to rush, to hurry, to push, to expect. Remember, just recall and pause.
Yes, that's right. That's how it is, because we tend to cling a lot. We cling to people. We cling to things that are comfortable for us. And we think that these things belong to us, but nothing really belongs to us. Everything we have, even our own body, at any moment it can be taken away from us. Our sight, the love of our life, anything can be taken away from us. We only have this breath, this moment, the next moment. All the universes are in the next moment. That's the only thing we have, and we don't own anything or anyone. But just because certain people, certain situations give us comfort, they have proven themselves over time. Like, for example, this person, yes, it's very pleasant to trust them, and we believe that they will always be the person we can trust. The good thing is that when people grow, their surrounding environment grows along with them. And it's absolutely normal and natural for people to start dropping out. But we take losses very hard because we've learned that we have to hold on to what's certain, for what works, for what has proven itself. And again, it comes down to this. The choice is either I allow myself to explore something different or I keep going down the same old path.
Subscribe today. I had such a meeting before I started with you. A lady who started something like a side business and wanted advice on why everyone is hinting that it's not working, why she has invested so much time and resources and it's still not working. And it turned out that after some time into the conversation, the reason was far from that. It turned out that it's not really such a passion, even though the thing itself is very beautiful. The problem was the unspoken relationship with our longtime husband and an unresolved decision about some issue there. But now I say, we always reach a point where in the end we just have to admit it, and I always end up with the sentence, always me. And I knew that was it, but you had to tell me, am I not sure? I understand that you're showing something different, something to push you, to make it so that it reminds you. But if you, as they say, don't eat dinner while the food is still hot, that's the truth. You'll keep building up these filters, you'll keep convincing yourself that this fantasy you're living in now is okay. And again, you'll fill up the basement and forget about this choice.
For a moment, that's fine.
So at the core, it's this thing. Sometimes it sounds too easy to be that.
That's it. That's what it is. People don't accept it because we expect it to be something very complicated, hidden in some formulas, some paragraphs, some tons of books. But actually, the truth is in the simple things that we are used to making complicated for ourselves. And we really love to make our lives complicated, to look for problems where there aren't any, to think, to overthink, to worry about the future, or to live in the past. Because that's another issue that I often come across. We live in the past and then we become melancholic. We have no energy, no motivation. We feel nostalgic. Nothing makes us happy here and now. And these are the extremes. I'm ahead in the future. I'm back in the past. But the truth is in the present. And again, we have a choice. We always have a choice.
Thank you very much for that reminder. I want to continue with something very interesting. You are experiencing an encounter with an entity named Aorisa. Tell me about this situation. When did it happen? Was it your conscious attempt to contact exactly such an entity? Or did it show up so you could see it's possible?
The first time I encountered this name, she appeared to me in a completely different form. I was in my kitchen, the baby was sleeping, I was preparing some things, and suddenly, just as I was doing some things around the house, my inner vision, those who have experienced it know what it is. You see reality now, but your inner vision, like an additional screen, projects other things to you.
That's how it is.
The two merge and it projects other things to you. And I see with my inner vision a wonderful, beautiful head, feminine energy radiating from everywhere with a huge crystal on the forehead, with very beautiful shapes, an elongated face. And back then, we were a small group working together, doing joint sessions to have confirmation that what we saw was really what we saw. It was really cool back then. We experimented a lot. And so I called my friend and said, I see something. And she asked, what do you see? And I explained what I was seeing to her. We need to find out what this is. So I dropped everything I was doing and went into meditation. And then we found ourselves on a spaceship, which we realized was actually a station on the Pleiades, who helped us back then to remove certain programs from us. But the leading figure who guided us through these processes, through the tunnels, the healing chambers, the recovery rooms, the spheres in which a person's electromagnetic field is truly changed, where even the cellular structures are almost transformed, was this Aurisa. That was the first time I heard her name. But some time ago, something happened that really broke me down. It literally broke me down because it felt like my identity had been stolen and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And so it happened that I was searching for an answer to what I wasn't doing right, where I was making mistakes, what I needed to change. And then I started a practice, a kind of regression, but it turned out that it wasn't actually regression yet. And what happened was that I connected with my true self through myself. A totem animal, something that I also wear here on my arm. What do you wear on your arm? This dragonfly in this way, very abstract.
Beautiful.
Yes, that's the symbol I saw, the symbol that helped me connect with her. That's why I decided that this is what I would do. This happened in September or October. And then I connected with something. I didn't know what it was. I just followed that dragonfly, which led me to a very beautiful setting, a setting full of love, a setting of love. And I see myself following a beautiful young woman who is all light, who steps up onto a small podium just to be a little higher than the others. And the moment she stands there, crowds of souls start to gather. I say souls because as a result, what came as information is that this is the 8th dimension. And their bodies don't look like our bodies. They are more like energy rather than having mass. I could just see the souls' silhouettes as they gathered. And then what she did was simply step onto that little podium and start giving light. Because she herself is a conduit. We are all conduits of light and energy. But what happened was she would simply stand there. The energy channel would open. The energy would start to flow. And she would just share that light and that energy with the souls who were there. What she gave me as information then was that the difference is, because I explained to myself, I said, look, here on our planet, in our reality, things are not like that. Here you have to talk, to literally pull them. Come fix your life, come fix yourself, be happy, be healthy. And she says, no, come, let me show you how it works here. And what she shows you. She just stands there and is this conduit for the light. But what's different there is that the souls themselves realize that there's something they want to change. In order to rise even higher, to elevate themselves even more energetically, to move up in rank overall. They realize it themselves. They know on their own, for example, that they've experienced something, that something has happened, and they come on their own. They just need a source to go to. It's just like with the lamp and the flies in the same way. The lamp lights up and everyone who needs it gathers around. And then the message she gave me was simply, don't stop. Again, don't stop. Keep going. Don't stop. Keep going. It's hard to apply that here. In our reality, you can't just stand up. We've all seen them, especially those who are church representatives, how they stand up and start talking about Jesus, about the Bible. Who stops by them? No one stops by them. And that's something I'm still looking for an answer to. How can it happen?
How do you feel about this whole religious idea? How at the moment, from your current point of view, how do things stand?
My current point of view is that I accept absolutely everything. There is nothing that I deny. As long as you believe in it and it makes you happy, makes you a better person, makes you a better citizen, wonderful. I myself believe in God. I believe in the universe. I believe in aliens. I believe in energy. I believe in everything. For me, absolutely everything is possible as long as I have seen it, experienced it, or see confirmation of it in the world. That means it exists and I accept everything. I'm not very comfortable with the extremes that religion sometimes flatters, because almost all religions at some point flatter some kind of extremes, and I don't like that. That's something that's not acceptable to me, because in the end, God doesn't limit us, no matter which God or which religion. They don't want us to limit ourselves, quite the opposite. And if we allow ourselves, and here we come again to the point where we are the explorers, we are the ones to read it, we are the ones to read.
For ourselves.
Yes, really, what does this mean to me, not to someone else? What is it telling me according to his son? Or read from this.
What you have seen and read, what does it mean to you?
For me, since I have read the Bible and I also started reading the Quran, but I didn't finish it, because literally they are very similar in philosophy, in ideology, in the things that are said. Different names, different plots, different situations, but the meaning, the depth, and the essence are absolutely the same. I have studied Buddhism for a short time simply because I wanted to find those connections, those common things. And they are there because God is love, God is light. If we talk about the 10 commandments, the universal laws in Islam also have laws, meaning
The principle is the same, and
the principle is the same. Yes, and when we look at whether they are the universal laws or the 10 commandments, if we start to analyze them, we will see how much they overlap and how actually it's all the same. And that's the meaning of everything. And that's something I've proven to myself over the years, that everything, every single thing, because I realize that my role is to be a crutch for people. I realize it and I carry it with honor. It's hard, but I carry it with honor. And every single crutch, every method, every technology, every, ideology, in the end, at the end of the road, it leads us to a single realization that everything is one.
absolutely, that's very well put and said. Thank you for that. That's it. That's what Jesus was trying to show 2,000 years ago. There's a really good series for anyone who's interested. It's called The Chosen. It's a very well-made film where you can see this. The focus isn't on religious dogma or the typical image we're used to seeing of imposing extremes. Just like you, and you get this unpleasant feeling about what's coming, about how things are. On the contrary, it's a unique perspective from the point of view of the students, of those around him, what's happening behind his back, around him, inside him. Very interesting. So we repeat the same patterns, but at the same time, it's like me too. That's what I feel and see when working with people. More and more people are ready to make their own choices and decisions. More and more are doing it, finally changing themselves. They're ready. Otherwise, this format wouldn't exist, right? How many? We're already very close to episode number 100. We can't get a cake for the episode number. That would be very cool. Yes, I'm serious, which says a lot. So from your point of view right now, what's happening globally? Where are we? Where are we heading at the moment? How do you feel about things, people, the energy, civilization?
I feel that we're heading toward a very good state. For the awakened souls, I don't want to make a sharp distinction here between the awakened and the unawakened. But what we are experiencing here now is literally this transition from 3D to 5D. We are moving simultaneously in both 3D and 5D, while the person next to us is moving in 3D. That is, in envy, in sitting down in the evening to have his rakia and eat his salad. There's nothing wrong with that. It's his routine and it makes him happy. That's what I'm saying, right? We come here to be happy in one way or another.
And that's how Cocktail Long Island was born. And things like that.
And
Room.
And such. And it happens every day in every choice we make. And I observe it because I work with a lot of people and I work in a place where there are an extremely large number of people and I see it. And it's very interesting. How several people observe the same situation. One sees it one way, another sees it differently, and a third sees it in yet another way. And recently there was a situation where one person got offended by it, yes, and another started to get aggressive. And I just stood there. And because I saw things differently, I thought to myself, wow, how interesting this is. Here we have 2D, we have 3D, and we also have some other D, which I don't know what it is, but it's not 2D. For sure, we are here and now, in this moment, these dimensions. We are in one, and that's what I see, how we are. All the dimensions are here, and we are now. We simply choose from which level of dimension we will act, and from which level of dimension we will think, and to what extent. We will allow ourselves to expand or to contract, but the anticipation, in my opinion, is very nice things. Things that, however, we know that the universe always seeks balance and energy seeks balance, which will be there, will bring along with them in order to create this balance as well. We see what is happening on a purely planetary level, all these events that are quite frightening for many people. But it can't happen at the same time. Great spiritual upliftment, great spiritual development can't happen without something to balance it out. So the more we rise, the more people awaken, the more people are reborn, the more we will observe the other things as well. And that's absolutely normal. People shouldn't be afraid of it. It's absolutely normal. Because let's not forget that yin and yang are always in balance. And the more bright and enlightened souls and things that happen, like your show, it's a great core for many people. But other things happen too, and these two things go together.
That's right, for existence to occur.
For there to be existence, absolutely. It can't be just love and light. If we live only in love and light, we won't manifest here on Earth. We would be somewhere high up in the energetic world. We have no more lessons to learn, no more experiences. It's very nice there. Those who have experienced it know how wonderful it is. But we experience it only for a short while because we have to come back here and learn our lessons.
Very well said, Vale. Do you have a few questions for her that you would like to add now?
No, you can talk about the Galactic Federation, can I tell you?
From one point of view, well, see, you do have some, because I have an imaginary earpiece here, and they're prompting me, these earpieces aren't for show, that you have some. But do you want to join in with a few questions?
No, you joined in with that question, huh?
Who is it? Who? Come on, tell me. Look, you tell me and I'll ask it.
So, Veronica?
Rules.
2 sound therapy sessions with me.
You have done 2 sound therapy sessions with Vale?
In the Galactic Federation of Light. And she knows the races and you can talk about them, like what makes them unique and things like that, for example.
Tell me about the Intergalactic Federation of Light.
The Intergalactic Federation of Light is a place that it turns out I have visited more than once or twice. I just realized that it was this very recently. For me, it was a place I found myself in during deep meditations in different practices and initiations that I have received. Just like with Iorisa, who simply called me to connect with her back then, and I didn't know what that place was. The first time I ended up there, I will never forget, because when we were doing sound therapy with Valido, she described it very beautifully there. Now, here we go up, we feel this energetic pull like this, like this, like this. I went up as if in an elevator, practically. There's a logical mind. I like simple things. So an elevator. I got into an elevator, a metal one, which had absolutely smooth walls. There were no edges at all. This elevator just kind of sucks you up and opens like this. The round door opens. And I entered a unique hall, if I can call it that, which sees everything and everywhere. It both had walls and didn't have walls. It was very interesting. And there they were sitting like in a semicircle. That was my first encounter with this type of entities, which I later understood who they were. I realized that they existed. The Intergalactic Federation.
Between the different races?
Yes, the different races, and I see interesting. There was a lady who looked a bit like an afro. The people here on Earth, they have such big earrings, big braids, but their faces were not human at all. different, some a bit taller, some shorter, and those...
The ones we know on Earth and those we have no idea about, even how.
Absolutely, because later on I saw races whose names I can't even pronounce. That's why I don't argue about names. I just know what they look like. If I see it, I'll know it's the one, that it's that race. And then I entered there for the first time when I was, and something like a meeting was taking place. And I was there. They were sitting, in a semicircle, and in the middle there was a small, like a little podium, a place where, a certain individual would come out to speak. And so I entered, a bit timidly, and stayed there next to them. And after the meeting itself ended, they handed me something that looked like a book, but it wasn't a book. It was an object that glowed, that had moving different symbols, which looked like fiery golden ones. They were just moving on the thing itself, whatever it was. They gave it to me, and of course I asked, what is this? Is this for me? And they said, take it, you will need it. Then they quickly sent me off, and I was left unsure what to do with this thing. And after that, I had another visit, a visit where I don't remember what intention I had when I went into meditation to find out. But it was a visit where they literally showed me what is happening right here on Earth. And what they showed me was the globe, like a grid with certain energy centers, those energy centers, that is, what they told me is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical center or some kind of portal or something that is physical. It could also just be a person who channels. And the whole Earth is surrounded by this grid. And this grid connects both with itself and with smaller such energy centers. And basically, they showed me how we are all connected. There is no
Isolated.
There are no isolated cases, random links, or people here by accident who don't know what they're doing. The thing is, what they showed me was the completed grid of the Earth, which was shining beautifully. Everything had perfect lines. Everything was connected. And how is it right now? You could see some lights, some shining brighter, some less. There were gaps. There were places where there was no connection at all. They simply showed me the different states. And what I understand is that maybe this is what we are striving for, where everything is connected, where everything is harmony and balance. And now there are some very strong ones, but there are many gaps. There are many links that don't connect at all. And by the way, in Bulgaria, we have such very strong energy centers. This is another event that I experienced physically, but I don't know if we'll have time for me to tell you about it. Okay, let me finish about the International Federation. So it turned out that I had been there several times. And with Valezzo, we did our first sound session. How would you try?
How would you explain to people who hear about this, in a few words, what this sound session is?
People, this is the song of the soul. I haven't cried so much from love and affection. Even now, when I remember it, it moves me a lot. I cried from happiness. And it's not just because Valezzo is here. I really cried from happiness. It was just the sound and the things she put me through that made me remember, because that's something I do too, to make people remember. But I also remembered my big heart, the energy that flows within me, the potential that maybe I won't even manage to develop in this life, but I know it's there. And I know that even if I don't succeed now, in the next states in which I will exist, I will manage to catch up somehow. This is unearthly. This is a cosmic experience. This is not something that has a comparison to an earthly experience. And especially our second session, which I knew after the first one that I would have more sessions, because then somehow the field just opened up. I myself opened up then. And even when we communicated with Valia afterwards, she said yes. I know that we will have another session, which I more or less know how it will go. In the second session, with her guidance, I first met my spirit, my soul, which
How did you even feel that thing?
well, it's wonderful. The moment a person meets their spirit, they remember who they are. I felt it because you see yourself. It might be in a different form, it might be in a different image, but you see yourself in Moj. Maybe your best version, the version of unconditional love, the version of unconditional faith in the person, the one who experiences this spirit, this soul, unconditional faith. Because they truly believe in us. They really always support us, whether it's through dreams, through events, through encounters. They always, always support us. And then that encounter wasn't so sweet for me because I'm someone who often practices different techniques, meditations, all kinds of things, but it was really wonderful. Then I saw again that gentle warrior, which is who I am in spirit and soul, because that's what my soul looks like. At least that's how I see it. A warrior who at the same time has a very gentle, very angelic presence. And it's somehow like two in one, like a woman warrior, something like that. And then in our second sound session, we went on this kind of cosmic journey. And then in the sound, I embrace it. That's what I am. I know this. I've been here. We set off on this kind of cosmic journey through corridors where everything is truly real. It can't be described. Even though it's metal, it's some kind of material that I define as metal because it reminds me of stainless steel. And there were these round corridors, some huge things that could be seen in the middle of the station itself. And there were some construction activities happening there. They were working on some kind of ship. And at the same time, there were some research activities going on. There was something like a laboratory. At least that's how I explain it with my human mind. Something like a laboratory, something like a research center. But we were moving along the upper perimeter, and we entered a hall where I met several different representatives of various civilizations. They gave me their messages then, messages that I am still deciphering. That's what they had for me. That sometimes I speak so conditionally that it can take you weeks or even months to decipher.
I confirm because I also have messages from the Galactic Federation. The last one, actually, the bigger one, I included in my book Echoing to Reality. I chose the deepest, the most powerful passages for me and sealed them forever in it because they were meant for me and for all of us. They speak in this way a lot, at least this angle and this connection, which for me has always been very global. At the same time, with many different analogies, comparisons and metaphors, which are sometimes very poetic, beautiful, it's unique. One of the analogies that comes to mind now is get drunk, get wasted with with the liquid, and get drunk with the love of existence, get wasted, yes, get intoxicated. Just things that have many meanings. And you stand there, and at some point you don't even want to interpret them. You want to feel them.
Yes, you just want to feel them. Because really, when we start to interpret them, we bring in logic. Yes, we bring in what we've read.
What is it? But why do I need it?
And they speak and communicate with us in a way that lets us experience it. Because that's how we imprint it as a feeling in our bodies. Because words are just words. And how you say it, yes, it matters, right? How you say it, but how you feel it, that's what stays. And that's why it's very difficult. And that's why thank you so much for the channelings you do, because it's very hard to translate this kind of messages. You really have to find the right word. And sometimes the word just doesn't come. It's just like a feeling. It's just like a picture. It's just like knowledge. How do you say that to someone? How do you describe it? And really channeling, I realized in recent years that throughout all these years, I was also doing channeling. I'm glad people talked more about this, so I understood what was happening to me instead of thinking I was experiencing a miracle. Because I believe in angels and archangels and ascended masters. Everything that exists, I believe in all of it. Everything that is, I believe. And I wondered, is it some angel trying to tell me something, or maybe some other being, or maybe a god, something like that? But I realized that actually I was channeling, and I understood that it doesn't really matter who is sending you the message, because it's from everything. It's from the collective, from the whole. It just manifests in a way that can reach you at that moment. That's something I realized very strongly, especially during my last visit to the International Federation. And everyone communicates in an extremely different way. They have a very different presence, very different energy. Some are blunt, direct. I'm telling you, literally, in just a couple of sharp words, yes, literally, just like strict generals who give you an order and just tell you to go and act. But when we talk about the beings from Sirius, the Pleiades are there too. They are love, they are caring, they are tenderness. They will hug you, comfort you, calm you down, stroke your hair, and take care of you. Other beings, on the other hand, are very motivating. They literally make you move, get active, and all of that stays with you as a feeling. That's what I'm saying, that my initial mission was that every person on the planet should feel what this is. Because once they feel it, they'll never be the same. They'll want more of it. They'll want to read more, to experience more, to do more, to achieve more. And that's how this wheel starts turning, because the mission isn't a final destination. It's not something where you grab this big thing and just move along. If we follow this logic, it means we're moving in the comfort zone. And if we're moving in the comfort zone, nothing changes. Let's not fool ourselves that when someone is on their mission, everything is just easy for them, right?
By itself.
Yes, because it's not like that, because we build ourselves, we learn through challenges. And that's something that in the past few months, I've gotten quite a few slaps and kicks. For one reason or another, I'm still figuring out why and how. And all of these slaps and kicks, I realized that this is actually my mission, because my mission requires me to be resilient, to be able to cope, to be flexible, to be persistent, not to give up or betray myself. To be able, for example, to handle a certain amount of work, to be able to take on a certain number of clients, to be able to deal with a certain situation. You can't continue moving forward on your mission if you don't change anything, because unfortunately, people, we change through pain. When something pushes us, when something hurts us, when something is taken away from us, that's when we choose to change ourselves. Unfortunately,
the body starts to hurt just to feel that it even exists. Very good information, but I take it even beyond the layers that are just words. This presence is wonderful to me, the story you wanted to share.
Yes, I was part of an energy club and we decided to go on our first trip around Bulgaria. We went down to Botovgrad. There are some unique rocks there. And then we had a local lady who was guiding us, and she said, "Now I'll take you to the Bulgarian pyramids." We arrived at this area right at the pass. It was extremely powerful energetically there. You could see altars, you could see these holes that were made. Overall, it was a very strong energy place. Just by walking on that land, you could feel it. I personally felt it tingling all over my legs. We stood on a plain looking toward the specific pyramid, and when you really look at it, the mountain itself, first, it's pyramid-shaped, and second, you can see something resembling a sphinx's head. Seriously, yes, and this is here near Botovgrad. I don't remember the name of the area, but I can share it with you as well. Right there on that platform we were looking at, we stepped forward slowly, and suddenly there was a circle. You could literally see the circle, and this circle, when we stepped into it, we felt a different energy. And since we were all working with energy there at the time, we started to adjust our vision to see what this actually was. It turned out that this was a huge portal, a portal through which the civilization that had arrived, this is what we understood. There were also Atlanteans there, those giant beings who guard the mountain. It turned out that through this portal, they sent their healers. They sent others as well. In general, it was a portal for travel. When we went to the mountain, the energy barrier was clearly visible, especially to eyes that can see energy, and it was very clear. The moment we took a certain step, as soon as we crossed a certain point, some people started to feel unwell, they couldn't go any further. Some people turned back, others started to climb and then went back down. because the very top of this mountain is energetically protected, and not everyone managed to reach the summit. Not everyone managed to experience what it is like. But what were the feelings on top of the rocks themselves? It's unique. It's so unique. You can feel the ancientness of the energy. I mean, you feel that this energy is so old, sealed with so much wisdom, with so much feeling. When we climbed to the top of this mountain, we started to look around to observe the area around us. And you could literally see, like a haze, the outlines of the great giants, Atlantis. They stood there, literally stood there like guardians of this mountain. I don't know if it was left as an energy imprint. We didn't dig deeper to see, but honestly, I just don't know.
That seeing it is enough.
Yes, you could see it. It was very powerful, a very strong experience.
Maybe I was also at the institution?
Yes, I'm catching my breath.
Yes, you can hang up.
But can you talk a little about the light codes?
Yes.
Because they've never even heard about light language in Bulgaria, or even know, a way to transmit information beyond language.
The light language, the light communicative language, the codes.
These things, because you draw them, and to talk about that. And how so much information is encoded in so little, right? Something to imagine that we would have to write a whole book.
Yes, or to draw a whole room with symbols and scribbles. Yes. Well, the language of light language. What came to me is in the form of symbols that I draw, symbols that I see most often. In Zlatno, it was unlocked after our first session with Valut in our first sound therapy, and it came as a literal balm for my soul. I've always been one of those people who, even when working with clients, I'm always doodling something, I'm always writing, that's how I concentrate, and I hadn't really paid attention to what exactly I was doodling. And when I flipped through my notebooks from my meetings with people, I saw that there really were some symbols here and there. I just hadn't paid attention at the time, I was just doodling. But when this thing started to unlock in me, it started to come in the form of huge golden symbols that you see so brightly, like neon fire. Each symbol, where every symbol has its own vibration, its own meaning. I wouldn't say so much meaning, more like sense. I want to add here that the language of light is currently manifesting on our planet in different ways. For example, Valeto sings, many people sing in these different languages. People paint, you too, yes. I generally don't paint, I've never painted, but now I've started painting. It just started happening. I started to observe how as I work with a person, especially when the practice or session we have requires some kind of entering into meditation, into another state. At the moment when the person relaxes their mind, lets go of logic and enters another state of consciousness. That is, the symbols just come to me and I see them, and before we start, for example, working on a given topic, whether it will be in a constellation, regression, or if we are going to do some other practice, I know what this person actually needs. I know that, for example, we go in with one topic, but actually that's not the real topic. No, it's clear to me too, and that's why I say that it's not so much about the meaning, but about what kind of energy it carries. Yes, these energy lights codes just started pouring in for me. I started experimenting with them. I even have some in my car downstairs, but I just didn't think to bring them. I just started making them like that to see what would happen, whether it would be the same every time. And I can tell you that almost all the symbols are different, and I don't know what they mean exactly, but I know what meaning they have for a person. And I know that this is something that, first will develop in me because it's not something I've dealt with before. And first they will start teaching me what this thing is.
A lot of people abroad in America are currently developing this thing. One such channel, which I can recommend to you and to many people, is called Activations with JJ. This is a lady who activates a lot of messages in this way and continues to actively share herself and many others. We're heading towards the end. And as tradition, I finish with some questions that are meant to be answered in one sentence. And since you said that these symbols give meaning at a specific moment, they appear to a specific person. Veronica, what is the meaning of a person?
To be without limiting themselves in what to be, just to be, to allow themselves to be.
And what does it mean to allow yourself?
To explore without, again, letting your environment limit you.
And where do we come from?
We come from a source.
And where are we going?
Back there.
And what is love?
Everything.
And what is everything?
Everything is love.
If you have one opportunity and you have it right at this moment to deliver a message to everyone who listened, stayed, explored, and immersed themselves in this wonderful environment, what would you tell them?
First, I would tell them not to stop exploring. If something catches your attention, explore it. You don't need to explore it completely or become obsessed with it. Simply, everything that comes our way is our stepping stone to the next thing and to the next thing. And that's the meaning of our existence, just to experience as many things as possible without insisting that they all have to be positive experiences. Because after all, we learn from the difficulties in our lives. So we should embrace them, analyze ourselves through them, see ourselves in them, and share, expand ourselves through them by exploring.
Expanding, exploring. A bow. Thank you, Veronica, for this unique participation and presence. And you share your experiences, your explorations, and realize how much tremendous power your choice holds. Thank you for staying with us until the end. And today on Reality Explorers, once again, it was a great pleasure. Thank you.